Report Live starts now.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Versailles, Ohio, it's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Welcome, everyone, to another Fish Report Live. It is Wednesday night, January 30th. My name's Craig Fissinger. That's Ken Francis. Thanks for joining us tonight. Ken, last week we had TK off on assignment on the other side of the world. Tonight we got Heavy D on assignment somewhere. I'm not sure, but TK's back there tonight, isn't he?
Yeah, fortunately we got TK back in the sound room tonight. Otherwise we'd have been in real trouble. We'd have had to, one of us would have had to go run the show back here, and I don't know how that would have worked.
TK, can you handle it by yourself there tonight?
Yeah, he can.
I don't know. I can't work it too well because I couldn't get the mute off there to tell you that I think I'm okay back here.
All right.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have Heavy D back and have our full sound room back good to go next week. But I'm sure TK can handle it.
All right. Well, Ken, we got a lot of basketball to talk tonight, a lot of fun, and a couple great interviews, don't we?
Yes, we do. We got two nice interviews tonight. First one's going to be with Terril Collier, the referee that a lot of us have seen before. He does a great job. He's one of the most talked about, one of the most respected referees in this area, actually in the state of Ohio. And also Versailles sophomore Kyle Ahrens is going to be joining us for a nice interview.
Yeah, looking forward to both of those. But let's get to that weekly trivia question like we do every week. I've been in kind of a slump here lately, kind of hoping you got an easy question for me tonight.
Well, it's not too hard of a question, Craig, okay? And we're going to talk last Saturday night I was over at Versailles High School. And while I was in the Commons area, I was looking at their record board, and I saw something I thought would be an interesting trivia question for tonight. So here it is. Who is the best career free throw shooter in the history of Versailles Tiger boys basketball? So who is the best free throw shooter in the history of boys basketball at Versailles? Is it A, Kyle Gale, B, Kevin Ahrens, C, Dan Watron, or D, Jason Shardo?
All right. Well, four very good athletes there, three very good free throw shooters. So I'm going to have to think about this one a little bit.
Three? Which?
I'll let you know at the end of the
show.
Okay.
All right. So Kyle Gale, Kevin Ahrens, Dan Watron, or Jason Shardo?
Well, I know we have a lot of our salespeople out there watching tonight. So if anyone out there can give me some help, why don't you send me a tweet at fish_report and give me a little help because I'm going to need it here tonight. So, all right, Ken. Well, let's get things started talking some girls basketball. Let's go straight to those SCL standings and see where we're at right now. I know Anna had actually a couple losses last week. I don't know if those mattered or not.
Not in the league standings, they didn't, Craig. And they were tough teams. Anna really strengthened their their non-league schedule this year. And, for them, it'll probably most likely pay dividends here in the postseason for them. So Shelby County League standings, Craig, nothing really has changed. It's been like this pretty much most of the year. Anna sitting at the top, followed just one game back by Fort Loramie. The Russia Raiders at 7-3, a couple games back. Botkins, Houston, Jackson Center, and Fairlawn rounding out the rest of the league. So it's been pretty three-team heavy dominated all year, and it's going to finish that way.
Okay, well, I mentioned Anna having those couple losses last week on Monday and Saturday, and that's 2 games they lost in a 7-game stretch. And I actually did a little research, Ken, and went back and looked. And the last time Anna lost 2 games in a 7-day period, you have to go all the way back almost 4 years ago to February 2009. Actually, on February 14th, Valentine's Day, they lost the game to the Minster Wildcats. And 2 days prior to that, they lost a close one to the Russia Raiders, 38-35. So pretty impressive streak there they had.
That is a long time to go without losing back-to-back basketball games. So Anna's been on a great run, but their time's coming here. They've got a couple good seniors here, and I'm sure they're hoping to finish the season out on a strong note.
Okay, well, I want to go back to TK right now and ask him, we're heading into the last week of the regular season next week. And TK, I want to ask you, how interesting does this SCL race get?
You can't hear it.
We need you to hit your mute there, TK.
It's hard back here by myself. Yeah. There's a lot of buttons and things going back here. Anyways, like you said, pretty interesting at the top there. We got, of course, Anna with no losses, Laramie with 1, and those 2 teams facing each other. If you remember when they played early in the season, it was a 2-point overtime thriller that Anna, of course, won that game. So obviously that's going to be a big game coming up next week. And then the Raiders are in between here and there. Raiders have lost a couple good tight games to Versailles and Fort Laramie. Anything can happen when you get out there on the court, and anything has the last couple of weeks as we've seen some upsets. So it's a matter for the Raiders coming up. Can they control the ball and control the tempo? Everybody knows we talked about the Huber girl at Anna. She pushes that team on defense and gets those quick fast break points, and that's really the big difference with Anna when they get that pressure going. So I look for a really interesting week next week.
All right, and then we got the tournament draw coming up on Sunday. Anything interesting coming up with that?
Really don't see too much interesting. If we look at the standings, probably going to have Laramie 1 and Russia 2, and then everybody else falls in behind there, and then we play games and see what happens from there. So that's just how I see it rounding out.
All right, good stuff there, TK. All right, Ken, well, listen, hey, we talk to athletes here every week. We talk to coaches every week, but one person we've never talked to on the show is an actual basketball official. And I don't know about you, but most of the fans that I sit by at basketball games would probably make pretty good officials because they usually know what every call was supposed to be. I mean, typically it favors their team, but they usually know what call should have been made. And I just want to ask you, what, in your opinion, what makes a good basketball official?
Well, Craig, I'm most impressed with the official, first of all, that runs out onto the floor and hustles, okay? You constantly see him working hard on the floor just like the players are. He wants to get himself in the right position to make the right call. Knowledge of the game, mechanics. I think mechanics are very important for a very good official because sometimes if he doesn't make the right call, at least it looks like he made the right call. And to be honest with you, that's a lot of officiating is all about. And physical conditioning, I think, is very important. And being a good communicator on the floor, whether it's with the other referees, the other coaches, or the basketball players themselves. So I think those are important things for a good official to look at and to have while he's on the floor. All
right, well, one of the good ones out there is a guy from Troy by the name of Terril Collier, and we're going to have him on here in just a little bit, but he's one of the best, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Terril's done a lot of games. We've seen him in Russia before. He does a great job, and, he has actually voted by his peers as one of the best or the best actual referee in the Miami Valley. He's even worked a Division IV state championship game back in 2009. And so he's a phenomenal referee, and we're fortunate that he's in our area and that he does a lot of Shelby County League games.
All right, well, Ken, I'm happy to say we have him on the phone right now. Like I said, he's one of the best, and he's Ohio High School basketball official Terril Collier. Terril, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. It's certainly an honor to be on your show. And I'd like to first say I've watched your show, and I appreciate what you guys are doing for high school sports in the Shelby County and surrounding areas. And I think it's just great, the exposure that you're giving to the high school sports.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And, Ken and I, we talk a lot of basketball on this show, and we kind of act like we know it all. But it's kind of nice to have a guy on the line now that actually does know a lot about the game. And I know you've reffed a few Russia games before we've seen you. And but I just want you to explain to our viewers out there that don't know of you, what exactly do you officiate? Is it boys or girls basketball? And what conferences do you cover?
Well, I'm in my 10th season of officiating, and I officiate boys varsity basketball in several conferences, including the Shelby County Athletic League, the Greater Western Ohio Conference, the Midwest Athletic Conference, the Dayton City League, the Cross County Conference, and the Southwestern Buckeye League. So I won't say what my favorite conferences have worked, but I will tell you the Shelby County is an awful fun league to work on Friday and Saturday nights. The gyms are packed, the fans are passionate, so it's a lot of fun.
Okay, and Terril, over the years, high school basketball, you got to admit it's become a stronger and a quicker game. And I want to know, how has that affected things from an official's point of view?
Well, first off, basketball is very much a contact sport. And, I believe it's the most difficult sport to officiate, but I may be biased there. Kids can play through more contact now than they could 15, 20 years ago because they're bigger, faster, stronger. And, from an officiating aspect, we want to call fouls that affect the rhythm, the speed, and the balance of kids. And so we talk a lot about rhythm, speed, balance because, you could call a foul every time down the floor if you want to talk about kids having contact with each other. But, from a fan standpoint, who wants to watch that where there's whistles every time down the floor? So it is very tough, and I just think as an official, you just have to really, get the fouls that are affecting rhythm, speed, and balance. And there's an entire section in the rule book that is covering incidental contact in high school basketball that's not considered a foul. So it definitely is a contact sport, and we, as officials, it's subjective, that's for sure, but we have to pick and choose things that are affecting play. So.
Hi, Terril. This is Ken Francis. And explain to us, Craig actually had asked me before we had you on, what I looked at in for a good official. And one of the things I mentioned was communication. Do you initiate conversation a lot with players and coaches, or do you sit back and let them approach you when it's something to talk about?
Well, Ken, I think there's a little of both of that. And what I really go by is I believe communication is very important with players and coaches. And there are three things that I expect or I look for from players and coaches, and that is, number one, that they respect the game, number two, that they respect the opponent, and number three, that they respect the referees. And that's all I ask for. And from a communication standpoint, and when I say respect referees, that doesn't mean that you can't challenge a call, but there's a right way to do it. And so, I have an open line of communication throughout the game with players and coaches, as long as those three items, are being adhered to. I think communication goes both ways. There's no big I and little U. I think communication goes both ways, and as long as we all respect one another, the communication lines remain open.
One thing's for certain, Terril, whenever you make a call, a lot of times half the fans are going to agree with you and half the fans are not going to agree with you. In your opinion, what is one of the most misunderstood rules that fans might not realize is sometimes the right call during a game?
Oh, boy, we could take your whole show on that.
That's for sure.
And that's a great question. I think that there are several misunderstood rules that are in the game. In fact, the Ohio High School Athletic Association has a website, and it's OHSAA.org. And in that website, it contains an article of the most misunderstood rules in basketball. And the one I'll point out tonight is taking a charge. And the fact that, there's a whole section in the rule book that addresses legal guarding position, and you do not have to be set to take a charge. And I think that's one of the biggest misunderstood rules is when you'll hear in the gym, if a referee calls a charge, you'll hear fans yell, he or she wasn't set. And, that's a misunderstood rule that you have to be set to take a charge. And, you could actually, by rule, you could jump in the air to block a shot as a defender and take a charge from the offensive player. So you don't see that called often, but from a rule standpoint, that is a possibility. So that's one of the biggest misunderstood rules is what it takes in order to accept the charge. And 3 others I'll mention, I won't get into them, but is just continuation on a shot attempt. That's a misunderstood rule, a kickball violation, and a 3-second violation. So there are a lot of misunderstood rules, and so I'm glad you brought that up. And so from a referee standpoint, we just have to understand and apply the rule, correctly.
Let me ask you a question since you brought up the kickball rule. I'm going to ask you a question. Does it have to be an intentional kick, or what if I throw a pass and I bang it off somebody's foot? It has to be intentional.
That's a great question. And I'm glad you asked, and because that's the misunderstood part. The rule states that for a kick ball, it's a violation is what it is. So the offensive team retains the ball. For that to be called a violation, there has to be intent from the individual to kick the ball. So it does have to be intentional. So if I throw it off of your leg just because I made a bad pass, that is not a kick ball. And sometimes you'll see that misapplied by officials. But in order for it to be a violation by rule, there has to be intent by the defender to actually kick the ball. And if it's not the case, then we should be playing on in those situations.
Terril, I would imagine the OHSAA is always looking for more good officials. For any of our listeners out there who would like to become a registered official in Ohio, can you tell them briefly what they would have to do?
Sure. The OHSAA is always looking for good officials, and for anyone out there that may want to become a licensed registered official in Ohio, there are a few things you need to do. There's a course that is taken in every fall in October, and you have to get 25 hours of classroom training and 5 hours of on-court training in order to, advance to get your license as an official. You also have to pass a 200-question test on rules and mechanics, and a passing grade would be 80% or higher. So we have local associate, like we have a local association that I'm a part of that has someone that teaches that class every fall in October. So it's only administered once a year in the fall. So that's where it starts. And then after you get your license annually, you have recertification hours that you have to go through to be able to keep your license. So there's a lot of time that's put in that folks may not understand in order to get your license to be an official. So if anyone's interested, you could go to the OHSAA website under the officiating tab, and there's more information there on how to become an official.
All right, Terril. Hey, listen, one last question and we'll let you go. Now Ken and I, we do this show and we got this crazy dream that someday we might be on ESPN. And I want to know, does Terril Collier have any kind of dreams in officiating? I mean, do you ever want to advance maybe up to the college level or perhaps the pro level?
Well, I really don't. I will say that, I don't have a dream to work any higher level basketball, but I thoroughly enjoy officiating high school basketball. And as a high school official, your dream or your goal is to be able to work in the state tournament in Columbus in March at Ohio State. And, I've been blessed to officiate 2 boys state tournaments in 2000, and I'd like to, highlight those. In 2010, I officiated the Division IV finals where Dayton Jefferson won the state championship. And if you remember that year, Fort Laramie was close to getting to the state tournament. They were beaten by Jefferson in the last seconds of the regional final, and I was there watching that game, so the Shelby County almost got there that year. But one of my partners in that state championship game was my high school buddy, Kyle Bachman, and that may be a name you know.
Sure.
Kyle and I were starting guards on the 1985-86 Piqua Indian team that won our league championship. So that was pretty neat to work my first state championship with Kyle Bachman. And then last year, I officiated the Division II semifinals where Elida won, and then they lost to the eventual state champ Dunbar. But the exciting thing last year was I have a twin brother that officiates. His name's Tyrone. And he worked the Division I semifinal, and our games last year at the state tournament were back-to-back.
Oh, wow.
And so for my parents, that was a pretty neat thing for them to see their twin boys be able to work in the state tournament back-to-back. So, but those are a couple of highlights of my career. So, in a sense, I've lived out a dream, and I love what I'm doing at the officiating level, and it's been a blast.
All right, Terril. Well, listen, hey, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for joining us tonight, and keep up the good work. We look forward to hopefully seeing you on the basketball floor sometime soon.
Well, guys, I appreciate it. And again, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing for high school sports, so keep up the great work.
Thanks, Terril.
Okay, we'll see you.
Yep.
All right, Ken, good talking to him. Told me a lot of things I didn't know. I was really interested in that charge rule. I was one of those guys that always thought the defender had to be set in order to take a charge.
I agree with you. I was too, and he did a great job there. That was some interesting. That was a really nice interview. And Terril, we thank you for joining us on our show.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. And Ken, the last couple weeks we've been spotlighting some cheerleading teams. We had the Versailles Raiders cheerleaders on here a couple times. We had Anna on here once, and actually last Friday we got a chance to see the Fort Laramie cheerleaders, and they put on quite a show, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They were pretty impressive, and let's take a look at them.
Fort Laramie High
All right, welcome back to the second half of Fish Report Live, everyone, and hopefully you enjoyed that performance by the Fort Laramie cheerleaders. We will have the extended full version tomorrow on the Fish Report website, so Make sure you check out the website if you want to see the full version tomorrow. And Ken, we were talking some cheerleading before the break. We were talking some girls basketball. We talked to Ohio High School basketball official Terril Collier. It's like we had a full show just there in the first half.
Well, we're going to go past our half hour, so hopefully Prime Timing Networks will extend our minutes tonight.
All right, I hope so. Well, we're going to talk some boys basketball now, and kind of a light week. We did have one big game last night. Marion Local traveled to Jackson Center. I'll tell you what, Ken, anytime you have a MAC team coming to town, you better be ready to play, shouldn't you?
Well, that's for sure. Marion Local is getting better and better as the year goes on, and they kind of got off to a late start because of that football championship. But like I said, they're playing much better now, and they gave Jackson Center all they could handle last night. The Tigers finally pulled it down in double overtime. So, Jackson Center continues on this way where they find a way to win.
Yeah, let's take a look at those standings and see how we're sitting this week.
Well, they're sitting at 8-1, 2-game lead over Fort Loramie, and it's amazing. Everybody in the league already has at least 3 wins, and it's just been very balanced from top to bottom. And it's going to make for a great sectional tournament over at Piqua this year, and a lot of balance there, and it's been that way every week. A lot of close games.
All right, and let's go to Friday's schedule. I think we got a full schedule coming up Friday night.
So some games here, Craig, that are going to be really good ones. Again, I think all 3 matchups are very good. And, just to review them real quick, Anna's going to be at Jackson Center. Anna's playing as well as anybody in the league right now. Has to travel to Jackson Center, who's in first place. Of course, everybody pulling for Anna on that one to help tighten up the league standings a little bit. Fort Loramie will be at Botkins, and Fairlawn at Russia. Both those games also will be very competitive games between, honestly, all these teams are very good basketball teams.
Yeah, you're right with that. And one of those games you mentioned, Anna at Jackson Center, I want to talk about that one a little bit because I think that could be a good one, Ken. And Anna started out the season super slow at 0-8. All of a sudden, they've been on fire. And I want to ask you, what's turned around Anna's season?
Well, Craig, if you remember going back to our first show of the year before the basketball even started, Anna was actually one of my dark horses to win the Shelby County League this year. And, they started out 0-8, and I'm like, boy, that wasn't a very good prediction there by me. But, they've showed it over the last 9 games. They're 7-2 over their last 9. And their points per game that their defense has allowed has dropped from 63 points a game all the way down to 49. So they've strengthened the defense up. Shannon Williams has been playing very well for the Rockets. And, they're a very athletic team, and it really doesn't surprise me that they've went on a run like this. I was more surprised that they started out 0-8 than I am now that they're 7-2 in their last 9.
Well, you mentioned defense for Anna. Speaking of defense, Jackson Center's pretty good on defense, aren't they?
Jackson Center plays great defense. A lot of what you see in the Shelby County League from top to bottom. So, the team with the best defensive average this year is Jackson Center, and coincidentally enough, they're leading the league standings at 8-1.
I got one more question on that. I noticed a new state poll came out this week in Jackson Center. A team that they beat last Saturday night, New Bremen, was actually mentioned in the state poll, getting a few votes there. But Jackson Center, who beat New Bremen, wasn't in there. And they were the state runner-ups last year. They got a heck of a season going this year. Why aren't they in the state poll? Well,
I'm as surprised as you are, and I'm sure the people in Jackson Center are looking at that saying, where's our Tigers at? Why aren't we ranked? Well, honestly, and Coach Awkward will tell you this too, it means nothing. It really doesn't mean anything. However, I'm as surprised as you are, and why they're not in there, I have no idea. And I think the same would go for New Bremen. They're probably looking at that saying, why are we ranked ahead of Jackson Center? They're not even ranked. They just beat us. But, that's the way it goes, but it really doesn't mean a whole lot.
All right, one thing I do know, Ken, is Jackson Center finished the month of January undefeated. The second year in a row they've done that. And of all those games they played in January, they had 4 games decided by less than 6 points. Like I said, won all 4 of those. And I think that experience, knowing how to finish, is real key. And I think that's going to be important when it comes tournament time for the Tigers.
Yes, it will be, as it is for everybody. Of course, once tournament time starts, everybody's back to 0-0. So throw out the records. And like I said, the postseason is going to be a lot of fun.
All right, well, that's going to do it for SCL Talk, Ken. But, a couple weeks ago, we talked to WTGR Sports Director Scott Ward about 2 of the best players over in Darke County. And one of the players he mentioned was Tri-Village's Kyle Pippinger. We had him live on our show last week. The other player he mentioned was Versailles' Kyle Ahrens, the sophomore over there. We got a good chance to see him last Saturday night, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Young talent there over there at Versailles, and it was fun to watch him play. And he's just a sophomore, but he's got good skills, and we had a nice interview with him.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to him a little bit and ask him a bunch of questions, and let's find out what he had to say.
Last year, you made a successful jump straight from junior high basketball into varsity basketball as a freshman. This year, you're a sophomore. Explain how this season is different.
I mean, we have our starting lineup's way different. I mean, we only have 2 people coming back, but the people coming right off the bench from last year, starting this year, it's a great jump that helps me to go up even more. They're pushing me every day.
How do you think your basketball skills have gotten so strong at such a young age?
I mean, I had basketball in my hand since I was with a little tyke suit, so I was like 5 or so. And
what does Kyle Ahrens have to work on to improve his game?
I mean, I have to work on everything. Everything needs to improve, but most things I need to work on, it's probably ball handling, and probably just my lateral movement needs to work on a lot.
Last year, Kyle, your team made it all the way to the regional semifinals. Gone from that team is Mitch Campbell. How far can this talented group of Tigers go?
We can win state. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of how we play in tournament, and we got to stay together no matter what.
Explain to our listeners out here some of your who some of your key teammates are and some of the other starters.
Well, our other starter that came back is Chad Winter, which is an outstanding player. He's the one that pushes me every day, wants to become better every day. He has a great work ethic and everything. And then the 2 other guards are Damian Richard and Nick Campbell. I mean, Nick Campbell, he's big, and he just wants nonstop go at it. Then Damian's always in here dunking it and pushing me to get my hops better.
You mean to tell me you got more than one guy that can dunk on this team?
Oh, yeah, we have 6 or 7.
All right, Ken. Well, that was Versailles sophomore Kyle Ahrens, and it's good to hear Kyle confident in his team saying that they could win state. But they had kind of a rough game last night against the Lehman Cavaliers, didn't they?
Well, they did, and I didn't get a chance to see the game against Lehman, obviously, but I read about it, and it was interesting. I can imagine what happened there. Lehman is a strong, physically strong team, and I can imagine the fact that they probably battled them on the glass. Okay, Versailles might have been a little off on their 3-point shooting, and if you can out-rebound them or at least hold your own on the glass and control the tempo of the game, that Versailles proved last night that they can be vulnerable. So, I'm sure Coach McEldowney is going to look at the tapes of that game and say, what have we got to change? What do we have to do different? But, the Tigers got a lot of talent, but as it is in, their Division III, obviously, but just like it is in Division IV around here, a lot of good basketball teams from top to bottom, and there's no easy game on any given night.
Yeah, they're going to be interesting to watch come tournament time in the Division III tournament, like you said. Mm-hmm. So, all right, Ken, well, that's going to do it for our basketball talk. Just one more thing to get to, and that was that trivia question you asked at the beginning of the night. Give it to me again.
All right, Craig. The trivia question was, who is the best career free throw shooter in the history of Versailles Tiger boys basketball? Now, I know people have been sending you some suggestions here. The options are Kyle Gale, Kevin Ahrens, Dan Watron, or Jason Shardo. 4 great basketball players. Which one of them holds the career record for best free throw shooting percentage? I'll give you a hint, Craig. It's 81.5%.
Wow.
81.5% career free throw shooting.
All right. Well, my Twitter feed's been lighting up here. I appreciate all the responses everybody's been sending in. One of the guesses was Sam Prakel. I know Sam's pretty good, and that might have been one of my guesses, but he wasn't one of your options, so I guess I'll pass on Sam. Andy Lynch from TV44 WSN actually sent in, he said he thinks, I didn't give him the options, and he said a Shardo. He actually said Jeremy Shardo. I know you mentioned Jason Shardo. I've been getting some guesses here. Mike Hetrick, a lot of Kyle Gales. I'm going to go with Andy, and I'm going to say Shardo, Jason Shardo. You
know what, Craig? You're wrong.
Oh,
and the only suggestion, all those suggestions were wrong, and the only person that gave you the good clue was your son, who was sitting in that chair right there during the show. The correct answer is B, Kevin Ahrens, 81.5% career free throw shooting. Kevin Ahrens is the career record holder.
Well, with Kyle on, I should have known.
Yep.
You made it easy on me. All right, maybe next week. All right, well, that's going to do it for us folks here tonight. Special thanks to Kyle Ahrens for doing that interview and for Terril Collier for coming on live with us. For the crew here at Fish Report Live, thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in again next week, same time, same place. Have a great rest of the week, everyone, and good night.
From Studio F in Russia, Ohio, for Ken Francis, Craig Kissinger, and TK, this is Heavy D, signing off saying good night and good fishing.